What if I told you that arguably the worst 1v1 basketball player is the best teammate you can have? I'm talking about someone who recently put up nearly 40 shots in a game and still lost. Someone whose 1v1 record is so far in the negatives, there's no coming back. What would you say if I picked him up first? You'd probably call me crazy. Ladies and gentlemen, this man is FlightReacts. He is well known as one of the worst 1v1 basketball players on YouTube. This is no secret, however, I believe Flight is one of the best teammates you can have in a 5v5 setting. Allow me to explain. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and I know it's been a while, but here I am, I'm back. Now this is a video I've been wanting to make for a while now, and with the two recent videos of Flight playing team basketball, well, I figured now was a perfect time to make it. In this video, I'm making the argument that Flight is someone that you want on your team, and I'm asking the question, is he the ultimate teammate? When we're talking about team basketball, I think the best teammates cover a few things. And ultimately, I've broken those down into four main categories. We have attitude, effort, engaged, and role. Four categories that I believe Flight excels at in a team setting. Let's start with attitude. This is pretty much self-explanatory, but it's important. I want you to think. In a team setting, have you ever seen Flight with a negative attitude on the court? How about bad attitudes toward his opponents? More importantly, his teammates? No. Now, I don't know if it's the weed he's smoking, but Flight is generally good at staying positive. Now, yes, he gets competitive and tries to argue foul calls, and also gets mad when he misses certain shots, but it's important to not confuse a winning and competitive attitude with a negative attitude. The fact that he's passionate about the game and always wants to win is something we have to respect, and that's the kind of teammate you want to have. Now let's move on to effort. I don't really have much to say about this one, but the most important thing to note is that Flight excels at this category. If you watch him, you know that Flight doesn't quit in his 1v1s. He can be down 11 zip and will still give it his all. This same effort is shown when he's playing on a team. One thing is for certain, when FlightReacts is on your team, you know he's going to give it his all, no matter what the score is.
Get him out!
So moving on to the next category, we have engaged. I equate being engaged on the basketball court to having a high basketball IQ, having the ability to instinctively play the game and adapt to situations that come up, making the right decisions at the right time, and always being ready. This is how I would describe being engaged on the court. So with all that being said, in team games, Flight is always engaged, and I would say that he has a decently high IQ. When he's off ball, he's very good at picking the right times to cut to the basket, which most of the time leads to a free layup. He also makes quick thinking passes to open teammates, if he notices that someone has a mismatch in the post, he'll feed them. And in transition, he's always running the floor, which leads to easy baskets. So these are just a few examples of Flight being engaged on the court. I know this sounds crazy, but when Flight has the ball, he often makes the right basketball play. And that's what it's all about. And on that same vein, we have the final category, which is role. A good teammate knows their role and buys into it. It's about being the best you can be at your job. As much as Flight probably wants to be, he's not the leading scorer on a team. That's just not his role. But I think he's aware of this, considering he only averages about 7 shots a game when he's on a team, and we'll get more into numbers later. But if you ask me, he fits more of the playmaker role, and he'll get you an occasional 3 if he's left open. I believe that Flight playing in this role gives his teams the best chances of winning. So that's all 4 categories, and yes, I think Flight excels at all 4. Let me know what y'all think down below. So we've discussed how Flight is a great teammate, but this wouldn't be a classic Maddox video if I didn't show some stats. So let's take a look at Flight's efficiency in team games when we compare them to his 1v1s. Just a few things before we get into it. So Flight started uploading 1v1s again in May, and he's played 7 since then, at the time of making this video. So I calculated those 7. He's also played 4 team games, 3 in LSK's video, and then the Chris White video, the 3v3. But when I was calculating his numbers, I also went ahead and threw in his most recent team game before this year, and that was the 3v3 he played with T-Jazz and Sergio. So the main thing I wanted to compare here are Flight's efficiency numbers when it comes to shooting. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. In his recent 1v1s, you can see that Flight took an average of 22 shots a game and only made a little over 5.5. And he also took almost 11 threes a game and only made around 2 of them. So you're probably looking at this and thinking, yeah, these numbers aren't the best, definitely not efficient. I don't think there's much of an argument there, but check this out. In the 5 team games that I calculated, Flight's shot attempts are cut to a third of his 1v1 shots, which is obvious because in 1v1s he's by himself and he's taking all the shots. But the important thing to look at here are his percentages and how they compare. You can see his 3-point percentage is raised by 6%, which honestly for Flight, I feel like is a decent improvement. But the big story here is his overall field goal percentage, which is raised by nearly 16%, making it a 41. Which in team basketball, I feel like that's respectable, especially for Flight standards. And of course, if you're wondering where I got these numbers from, here you go, you can pause the video if you want to take a better look at it. And just because these are fun to look at, there's a couple things I want to point out and talk about. This has nothing to do with the topic of the video, I just think it's cool to look at these things. So the first thing I want to point out, remember earlier in the video when I said Flight took about 40 shots in a game and still lost? Well, that was the game against Kenny Chow. As you can see, he put up 37 shots, which yes is a ridiculous amount. He only made 8 of them, and yeah, he lost that game. Another thing I found interesting is the maximum amount of shots in a game that Flight has taken in these last 5 team games that he's played has only been 12. And that was the Chris White 3v3. But as you can see, the amount of shots he takes in his team games are significantly lower. And that goes back to my point about Flight playing his role as the playmaker. So there we have it. Shout out to Flight for being a great teammate. Believe it or not, he is definitely someone that I would pick up. And we can't ignore the fact that he's much more efficient in team games when compared to his 1v1s. So shout out to him for that as well. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you subscribe if you're new, hit the like button. I know it's been a while, but I wanted to come back with the right video, and I think this is it. I'll see y'all next time. Take it easy.